In the year 46 BC, a defeated man on horseback rides toward the horizon of the Libyan desert. He is moving toward oblivion, with no paths back to the world he once led. Marcus Porcius Cato the Younger separated himself from his famous ancestors by focusing on a single, rigid obsession: the preservation of his own virtue. His rival was Julius Caesar. Rome's greatest conqueror routinely dismantled massive armies, but he openly feared and respected Cato's unyielding nature. Cato did not arrive at this desperate moment by accident or bad military luck. His impending doom is the calculated result of a philosophical framework that values principle over biological survival. Born into Rome's elite patrician class, Cato inherited immense wealth and a path to absolute luxury. He chose instead to subject himself to voluntary physical hardship. He was pursuing the Stoic concept of arete, or excellence. For a practitioner like Cato, arete meant forcing the human will into perfect alignment with universal reason. He walked through the streets of Rome wearing rough, heavy wool. He practiced fasting to ignore his body's demands for food, and he forced himself to sleep on bare, hard beds. This physical austerity served as a calculated baseline test, ensuring his body would obey his mind as external pressures escalated. Cato applied that same discipline in the Roman Senate. As the Republic fractured, he became an unbending obstacle against political corruption and the rise of dictatorship. Julius Caesar recognized the threat and tried to neutralize his rival. He offered alliances, wealth, and honors, but Cato rejected every attempt at a political compromise. When civil war finally broke out, Cato made a cold choice. He allied with Pompey, a flawed, self-interested general. He viewed fighting alongside a lesser evil as the only practical way to combat Caesar's tyranny. The strategy failed. At the Battle of Pharsalus, the Republican forces suffered a crushing defeat, and Pompey was killed shortly after. To Cato, the destruction of his military forces was an external event outside of his control. Because it did not require him to surrender his internal virtue, he viewed the defeat as merely another stage of the test. Cato took the shattered remnants of his army and marched them on foot across the deadly expanse of the Libyan desert. He maintained his authority by sharing the exact physical deprivations of his lowest-ranking soldiers, refusing to drink more water or sleep more than his men. They eventually reached the city of Utica. The settlement was completely cut off, marking the final end of Cato's physical retreat. Here, Caesar played his ultimate strategic card. He offered Cato full forgiveness. If Cato simply submitted, he would retain his life, his freedom, and his honors. Caesar's clemency represented the deadliest test yet. Accepting a gift from a tyrant would legitimize that tyrant's authority, destroying Cato's lifelong cultivation of virtue. On his final night, Cato sat in his chamber and studied Plato's dialogue on the immortality of the soul. He then chose to fall on his sword with uncompromising violence. When physicians tried to stitch him back together, Cato physically tore his own wounds open to ensure he would not survive. When the news reached Caesar, there was no celebration. The most powerful man in the world was stunned into silence, later admitting that he envied Cato's death. Caesar realized that his total military and political dominance was powerless against a mind that refused to value survival over moral principle. Cato weaponized the Stoic concept of prohairesis, the faculty of choice. It is the only truly unassailable fortress a person possesses. External forces cannot breach this core. Dictators and armies can batter the walls, but the core remains intact unless the individual chooses to surrender it. That unyielding principle outlasted the Republic, carrying forward to directly shape the mind of Emperor Marcus Aurelius nearly 2 centuries later. Caesar's physical empire eventually crumbled, but Cato's proof of the unbreakable human mind remains a permanent test for anyone facing modern hardship.